Queridos y queridas, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo están? Bienvenidos a una nueva entrevista a Sonar. Habíamos tenido el placer de conversar con Barrett Martin y con Alain Johannes hace unos días, pero nos reunimos nuevamente porque se suma también uno de nuestros héroes formativos. Era imposible perder la chance de conversar con Peter Buck y por supuesto volver a construir esta historia entre Barrett y Peter, quienes han firmado una serie de discos alucinantes, han girado con muchos músicos y están con un nuevo proyecto. Tantas cosas que conversar en esta entrevista a Sonar y agradecer el tiempo de Barrett y Peter Buck, leyendas aún activas y con mucho que ofrecer con un nuevo disco que van a lanzar este 2025. Barrett, thanks for doing this again.
Yeah,
welcome to Radio
back.
Sonar.
Yeah.
And Peter, welcome back to Chile. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
Well, lo primero, ¿qué te trae acá, Peter? Ya con Barrett habíamos conversado sobre aquello. What brings you to Chile? A mix of holidays and work stuff? Or
I'm working with Barrett, as I always have been. We're working with Alain Johannes on a record. We're also helping to carry telescope parts to Atacama Mountains. I'm just here because I like the country and I want to see more of it.
What do you remember from your first visit with your band? Two unique night shows. Any fun memories?
Yeah, well, of course. We played with the Jesus and Mary Chain, a band I really love. And then Obama was elected president the second night. We had a TV screen backstage. Where
Obama.
Obama, what did I say? Yeah,
Obama,
yeah. So it was an amazing night and a great audience. I managed to, we were here 3 days, so I got to see the town. I wandered around a lot.
Bueno, lo habíamos conversado, hay un viaje al norte de Peter que va a ser junto a Barrett, el interés de conocer el país y también los recuerdos de un show, 2 noches maravillosas. Jesus and Mary Chain, también estuvo Kaiser Chiefs en el SUE Festival del 2008, que fue parte de la chance, la fortuna que tuvimos nosotros de ver a R.E.M, coincidiendo también con el triunfo de Obama, su llegada a la Casa Blanca en el primer periodo. Barrett, Peter, you guys have always shown an interest in politics and music. You just mentioned the Obama thing, that Obama postal, that Obama memory. That is a very strong match, music and politics. What do you think about the lack of social awareness on current modern artists?
You know, it's a really difficult time. I don't even know what to say about what's going on in America. I don't understand it. I don't really feel much like an American, you know. I've been spending the last year or two elsewhere. So, you know, it's a real scary time worldwide. I don't even know how to approach it. You know, clearly the people in America want something that I don't want. You know, fascism. So.
Well, and you and I talked about this a little bit. I said I always thought that human rights was directly connected to music. I mean, historically, it has been. And our generation, you know, we're the alternative music generation. And if you look at all those bands, I mean, everything from Nirvana, Pearl Jam up to R.E.M. before that. Because I think it is important to say that R.E.M. set an example for all of us in Seattle, because they're about 10 years ahead of us, in making people aware of rights and being literate and intelligent in what you're trying to say. And I think that's kind of evaporated a little bit with like the just pure corporate pop thing that's taken over the United States. It's almost like they're not supposed to talk about that stuff, but we still do. So
it looks like everything is so calculated on current bands, don't you think?
Yeah, you know, I mean, the music I listen to isn't, but I don't really listen to the radio. You know, the American radio is like a wasteland. But there's great music all over the world. You know, if I spend my time listening to Brazilian music or African music or whatever, I'm not really thinking about what's popular in America because it's just not to my interest.
Muy interesante lo que estamos conversando con Barrett, con Peter Buck en esta exclusiva en Sonar. Lo que estamos hablando, y a propósito este guiño, ¿no?, que coincidió con el debut de R.E.M, con lo de Obama, es la falta de conciencia social en los nuevos números del rock, en las nuevas bandas, en los nuevos artistas, no solo el género de las guitarras. Y eso obviamente a estas alturas del partido, con todo lo vivido, a Barrett y a Peter les da cierta indiferencia. Peter no escucha radio, está más preocupado en disfrutar o escuchar bandas de África, bandas de Brasil, y también trabajar en proyectos tan interesantes como Drink the Sea, esta nueva banda que nuevamente los trae a Barrett y Peter al estudio. Well, as we discussed, you were involved in several projects, but you just released a band with Rich Robinson, Silverbites, on last year.
That's right.
And this is incredible because you put another supergroup or whatever, another rock band with an upcoming release in September. What drives you to put a new band, in this short time?
I'm at the age where all I really want to do is learn, work with people I respect, and enjoy myself. I had a career for years, and that was fine, and I don't anymore. I kind of follow Barrett. We go around and we work with people. We make records.
Follow the leader.
I would not say I'm a leader, but I think I'm good at creating possibilities. So like we had dinner last night with Alan, and I think you gave me the greatest compliment I've ever heard. You said like I created some opportunities so we could be pirates, which we mean it in the metaphorical sense. Like we can go to a foreign country and play music and meet people and eat great local food, and just sort of like really become like as much of a local as we can. And like we were talking about, we spent 4 months in Brazil, and we have been with Nando Reis, and we've been trying to learn Portuguese slowly, and then
Eu falo pouco de português. Eu falo como cavalo falante. I speak like a talking horse.
And what about dirty works in Portuguese? What about dirty works in Portuguese? Like porra?
Nobody told me any dirty words.
Oh,
no.
Terrific.
I could curse in Spanish because I have Mexican friends, but I won't do that.
And what about your Spanish? How's your Spanish evolved nowadays?
My Spanish isn't very good, and then now it's Portuguese.
Terrific.
And when I came here, the customs guy started talking to me, and I started talking to him in, I thought it was Spanish, but it was Portuguese, and he was going, "But you're from America." I went, "Yeah," he goes, "You're speaking Portuguese." I thought it was Spanish. I'm sorry. It's confusing.
Well, let's clarify here too. Peter has some great ancestral lineages here. His great-grandfather played cards with Pancho Villa.
True.
Yeah.
It's
a true story.
Before Pancho
El abuelo de Peter Buck jugó cartas con Pancho Villa. Ahí tiene una historia.
Before Pancho Villa was a revolutionary, he owned a butcher shop in Arizona, and my grandfather knew him, and they played poker together.
Antes del Pancho Villa revolucionario. Increíble, ¿no? Increíble historia. There is a huge, strong connection between you and your Latin American roots. Incredible.
I feel pretty Latin American. I mean, my daughter came with me to Brazil. She's fluent in Portuguese and fluent in Spanish, and I think she might move down here. So who knows?
Which is your favorite city in South America, of course, on Brazil, that you could project doing a living or something like that?
We spent so much time in Sao Paulo that I feel real comfortable there, and I have many friends, and I could play music 5 days a week if I want to. It's a great town, but I'm really enjoying my time here. So I get to play some music and rehearse, and I'll be back.
Increíble. Bueno, fuera de la anécdota de Pancho Villa, yo no tenía idea. Bueno, tú lo había comentado Barrett, pero ya que lo confirme Peter, es increíble. Los ancestros, el árbol genealógico y también la relación que ha construido Peter Buck, ya sea por su familia, que tiene una cercanía con el portugués, por ellos lo comentamos en la entrevista de Barrett con Alain Johannes, tuvieron la chance de girar, de producir, de trabajar mucho tiempo con Andrew Reis, que es un súper músico de los Titaes, que es una de las mayores bandas de rock en Brasil, y está el interés, Peter ha tenido la chance de ir a Sao Paulo, está el interés de quizás ahí tener una residencia. También Barrett hablaba de esta dinámica, esta metáfora de trabajar como piratas, de estar ahí en distintos territorios, tratando de colaborar con muchos músicos. And switching or reflecting about that pirate work ethic.
Right.
And how could you define this Drink the Sea trademark sound compared, for example, to the last band that you put with Rich and the other guys?
I would say, well, I want to, let me preface this. About a year ago, Peter and I have been working together since the early 90s. And about a year ago, we added up all the albums that we'd worked on where we were either in the band or backing up, and the number was 35.
Okay.
So then we did 4 albums with Nando, because it's a quadruple album.
Yeah.
So technically we're at 39, and this new album, Drink the Sea, with Duke Garwood and Alan and Dave Ketching, is the 40th album that we've worked on. And
Insane.
It's a lot of work.
And I mean, right now, we're sort of in that phase of like we're doing, final overdubs and rough mixing and all that. So it's just we basically made a band of our favorite songwriters, people that we had worked with.
And that is the essence.
That's the essence. Like the last time.
Have fun.
Yeah, the last time Peter and Alan and I were together was in Joshua Tree to play a benefit for the Joshua Tree National Park, and it got canceled because of a monsoon. And so we actually didn't get to play that show. But now we're, recording, and we have lots of show offers. We'll see what we can do when we can do it. So, but how is it different? I would just say that it's a different kind of band in that everybody brings their particular talent to it. And so it's, you can hear each person's influence, and it's really beautiful. And Peter wrote some of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard him write. So I don't think I don't think you should say his career is over. He's just having a renaissance.
I'm working. I write songs. That's what I do. But as far as career, I had one. It's fine. But I'm free now. I'm just doing what I want, playing where I want to be.
Qué importante es mantenerse motivado, qué importante es el sentido de la diversión, de trabajar con sus músicos favoritos. You just said on the last chat that working with your favorite music and friends around the world, it's like a gasoline to put some new projects and new ideas. Y bueno, mantenerse activo, trabajar. Peter sigue activo con todo. Nando is a very prolific music too. Trabajar con Nando ha sido súper inspirador, y está lo del número 35, son 35 álbumes que han marcado, han ilustrado la carrera de Peter, de Barrett en conjunto. I think that releasing a LP or a long play on this current days on musical industry, it is like a strong manifest. Because everyone is releasing singles.
Yeah, I noticed.
It's like I don't know. It's like a manifest. It's like an adventure. What do you think about that? The current value of the LP of long play as a format.
I firmly believe that my job is to work with people, pull together a body of work that makes sense together. It's a statement, a 45-minute statement of 10, 12, 15 songs. I'm not really sure what to do if you're just doing singles. That's nothing I do is really radio friendly. So, I believe in the body of work that a record is. Just like when I buy a Beatles record or, a Led Zeppelin record when I was a kid.
There's also, this is kind of back to our favorite singer-songwriters and instrumentalists. There's a common denominator with this group of people, which is the late Mark Lanigan, who is my former bandmate. But Peter is the only guy that played with both the Screaming Trees and Mad Season and wrote music with Mark. And so did Alan, obviously, on multiple Mark's records. And I played with Mark for 30 years, and so did Duke Garwood. So I think what happens is as we get older, we start to realize that, and Peter told me this one time, right when we met about 30 years ago, he said, if you just keep playing music and don't quit, after a while, everybody else isn't there anymore. They either quit or sometimes they pass away, unfortunately, but you're still there making music. And when you look around at that field of people who's still standing, you start to see these connections that we all still have together. I think that's important to recognize that.
Bueno, el poder de las conexiones para involucrarse con la música es bastante emotivo lo que señala Barrett. Primero, ya la ética, uno ya se puede dar cuenta de la ética de trabajo de Peter. En un comienzo él había señalado que no miraba hacia el lado, el tipo miraba hacia el frente en el sentido de no pescar lo que dictan las tendencias, lo que dicta la radio, pero lo más importante es el poder de la conexión con gente que ya no está con nosotros, el poder de la conexión de estar arriba y usar la música como un vehículo de autoayuda, en el sentido de gente que uno cuando ve todo perdido, está la comunicación entre Barrett, con Alain, con Peter, que han estado involucrados en muchos discos, y está también la forma de involucrarse y mirar hacia adelante con un proyecto que puede ser tan potente que te puedes sacar la energía en un gran sentido. That is the power of music in general, that moving over and thinking in the future. It's a very powerful thing. The ability of the the intention of working together, like a work ethic with your best friends, is insane. I was wondering, how could you decide the music that you are thinking about a new collaboration or something like that? How could you decide a music or colleague to collaborate in a band or?
You know, it's all luck. I mean, but
Okay.
but I meet people. I want to learn something. You know, I also want to work with people I respect. Barrett drags me into all kinds of situations.
At one point, actually, the first grand adventure Peter and I had, besides being in recording studios, we were asked by the U.S. State Department to go to Cuba in 1999 as music diplomats. And we ended up working with and meeting the top musicians in Cuba, and it culminated with us meeting and shaking hands with Fidel Castro. So, I mean, like, talk about political, you know, we're not advocates for Fidel Castro, but if you represent your country in a diplomatic way, these are the things that happen to you, you know. That was the first big trip we did, besides, you know, coming to South America.
That was the trip when you saw the Buena Vista Social Club.
Mm-hmm. That's when we saw Buena Vista Social Club, yeah. But also Chucho Valdez, Los Van Van, you know, like all these incredible musicians that, as North Americans, we were like, wow, we kind of need to go back to school here as far as like what music really is.
You work in several projects. As a sessionist, as a producer. I was wondering, it is difficult for you guys to got involved in a project together as a producer's mind. How you could get an agreement, for example.
You know, I don't really consider myself a producer, although I have produced records. Barrett's a real producer. So, but we work together. And,
as a work ethic.
Yeah, you know, if he suggests I do something, I'll usually do it. But we also, you know, we're even as far as our thought process and the way we work together. So, but yeah, I've worked on plenty of records where Barrett's a producer, and I just do what he says. So,
what about you, Barrett?
Well, I have probably played on as many records as a backing musician as I've played on where I produced a record. Well, probably a lot more where I've been just like a session musician. So I just paid attention to the producers I worked with, which were people like Butch Vig, George Drakoulias, Brendan O'Brien. And I just really respect people like that who put music as the forefront. And then of course you learn like studio techniques and, you know, ways to, but you know what it really is, a good producer, it's not so much like which microphone or which recording console. It's how you get the musicians to think about music and how to get them to perform. Because if you can get a great performance, that's the only thing that matters. How it's recorded is sort of secondary to human, soulful performance, you know? And you mentioned work ethic, and it just something popped into my head because Peter has played with Patti Smith off and on for many years, and I recently got to start playing with her as a drummer just in the last couple of years. And Patti always says, if you don't know what to do, you just work. Like, just work. Like, find something.
Follow your instinct.
Yeah, and she always says that, like, do the work. When you look at her website, when you look for concerts, it doesn't say concerts, it says jobs. Which that's American slang for, you know, your work. So it's really just about doing the work, not taking a shortcut, but just really trying to do excellent work.
And Patti Smith is going to South America. He's going to play like in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks.
The 25th.
Yeah, 25th. Yeah. How many weeks are you going to spend here?
I'll be here 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
But we're driving to
the north.
Yeah, to the north to San Pedro. It's a 3 or 4 day trip. That'll be great. I'll be up at the San Pedro and tourist stuff around there, and then I'll come back and see the Patti Smith show.
Terrific. Bueno, gran noticia. Peter va a gastar también. You're going to?
The reason why we're going to San Pedro is a good friend of mine is an astrophysicist who's working in the astronomy park, and he's building a telescope, and we're helping him take telescope parts to the Atacama. So we have like 2 vans like taking like scientific.
Great mix of interest this
Totally.
trip.
Yeah, I mean science. It's amazing what they're discovering right now.
Well, science and rock has a huge match since I don't know 70s, whatever.
Totally. But the Atacama is unique in the world. I think that's something Chileans should be really proud of. Like
Yeah,
the
the
scientific.
contrast of
I've wanted to go there for years, and this Barrett said he was going. Well, I'll come along. I invited myself, so here I am.
Oye, pero bueno, estoy un poco... Es difícil como traducir todo porque es demasiada información que pasa por nuestra cabeza porque hablamos de la... Primero de la ética de trabajo, ¿ya? De la ética de trabajo, de lo difícil o lo no tan difícil o lo orgánico que es llegar a un acuerdo entre Peter y Barrett, que tiene más de 35, repito, 35 producciones en estudio. Y luego pasamos de la intuición, de la amistad, de que Barrett tiene un rol más de liderazgo en la producción y Peter es más un creador, un tipo que ejecuta, aunque su visión obviamente importa. Está el tiempo que van a aprovechar en Chile, la experiencia de ir al desierto, mezclar el interés de la ciencia, de los telescopios, parte de la identidad de San Pedro, el desierto. Y bueno, Peter nos acaba de confirmar junto a Barrett, entiendo tiene la agenda un poquito más copada, que Peter va a acompañar a su amiga Patti Smith al show del próximo 25 de enero en el Teatro Coliseo. And you're going to share the stage with Alan.
Yes, we are. Alan invited us to play a couple songs and
Very busy holidays.
Yeah. Well, it is a holiday for me. Yeah.
Incredible. Bueno, otro estímulo, van a tocar con Alain Johannes en Sala Metrónomo. Dejemos la sorpresa. Let's keep the surprise with the set and the stuff. I don't know, the rendition, the version, or whatever. Peter, you're a huge vinyl collector. What about you? You consider a vinyl collector, or you switch with the streaming?
I was a vinyl collector. I mean, Peter has one of the biggest collections of anybody. But I have a pretty big Brazilian collection because the golden age of Brazilian vinyl, from the mid 60s to the mid 70s, I've got a lot of those classics.
Tropicalia.
Almost all of that stuff, yeah. And a lot of progressive, kind of fusion. Like I was a jazz guy when I was in high school and college, and so I love how jazz, rock, and world music all kind of blended into a thing,
And what about digging Chilean classic albums? You just mentioned Inti Illimani, The Last Chat, Los Jaivas, Victor Jara.
I learned about all of those artists when I was in graduate school studying ethnomusicology, and we got a little bit of the theory on that because it was part of the human rights part of music that we were studying. But people are emailing me on Instagram recommending bands and sending links, and I've just been like listening to all this. I can't even remember all of it at this point, but Conversa, that was another one. They're really
huge
great.
Band.
Yeah, we listened to that. That's just the first one that comes off the top of my head. But yeah, we're musical scientists. We're like always looking for it. So.
El amor por la música y el coleccionismo. Vamos a hablar ahora con Peter respecto a su colección de vinilos. Peter, as a vinyl collector, do you remember the first vinyl that you bought?
A Beatles record when I was 6.
Which one?
I think it was Hard Day's Night.
Hard Day's Night.
I mean, it was the current record. Yeah.
And the last one?
I bought just a single from a 60s soundtrack 5 days ago.
Okay, and maybe some potential South America vinyls that you're going to...
I would love to. My suitcase is already full.
How, you bought in Brazil?
Not that... I have a lot of Brazilian records that I bought in the past. And then when I was working with Nando 2 years ago... I said I didn't need to be paid, so as my payment, he gave me a stack of classic Brazilian records.
Incredible.
And that was a great payment.
Which vinyl do you consider a major treasure in your collection?
Oh,
Maybe a signed one.
No, I mean, for me, it's just all about the music.
Terrific.
So, I mean, for so many years I bought records just because it's the only way you could hear the music. I mean, I got to say, I stream stuff a lot now because I'm traveling a lot, and the world music is at my fingertips.
Do you still have the Fender Jack stand designed by Kurt Cobain?
Oh, yeah, I do actually. Yeah,
I imagine that is a major treasure.
Yeah, I mean, it's after Kurt passed, we were kind of friends. We lived next door to each other. Courtney gave me one of Kurt's guitars, and yeah, I suppose it has some value outside of the fact that has sentimental value to me.
Of course.
It also kind of makes me sad. He was just a young guy, and I pick up that guitar and play it every now and again. I still feel kind of, bad.
What do you remember from those times when bands who grow up listening to R.E.M. from the school period, university, college, radio became so popular? Rock was into the mainstream again.
It was great. I mean, I was living in Seattle in 94, 93, 92. It was great to see it all go on, It didn't end happily for a lot of people. It was a really tough few years. But, it was nice to see rock and roll being important again.
And what about you?
Can I make a comment about that?
Of course.
Because it kind of goes back to what I was saying, like the example. So I was in college when R.E.M. was really like becoming the big indie band. They weren't on a major label yet. But I had a rock band, and we covered 2 R.E.M. songs, which was The One I Love and Can't Get There From Here. And so when I was in Seattle, R.E.M.'s example for all of us was that you can do this as an independent artist and call your own shots, basically. Make the records you want to make and become quite popular. None of us even thought about being on a major label because we were on labels like SST and Sub Pop. And, we were touring. We were going to Europe. We were going to, Australia and playing around North America on an indie label. But nobody had achieved the kind of success that R.E.M. had. And then as we started moving to major labels, then different bands had different levels of success. Like obviously Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, those guys had massive global success.
For this radio, it's been like 15 years and a half since this radio started. For our work, we have the opportunity to get the chance to talk with some of our idols, musicians that we grow up. I was wondering, which was the last musician that you admired you have met?
Oh, the last musician
that you admired, you met.
Yeah.
You have met.
Somebody that I didn't know.
Of course.
Okay. It was when I was, both of us actually in Brazil 2 years ago, we got to do an interview with Gilberto Gil.
Wow.
That was pretty amazing.
Yeah. And because I started a TV show about music with my very good friend Tad Fedek, who's a filmmaker that did a lot of stuff for the BBC and National Geographic, and he came to Brazil with me and Peter to film an episode in Brazil. And so part of that episode is Peter and I talking to Gilberto Gil.
Incredible.
And so that episode will come out in a few months. But one of the things Gilberto Gil said to us, he said, because we were asking him, why do people, in Brazil, they all sing the lyrics to every song. Like the whole audience sings with the band. And he goes, it's an expression of joy. Because when Brazil was under the military dictatorship, the only way they could resist it was just by showing joy and personal freedom. And that was more revolutionary than taking a particular political angle. You simply show joy. And man, I've been thinking about that ever since.
I had goosebumps right now.
Yeah.
Because I love Gilberto Gil, and that tropical scene and that classic scene means a lot for the culture of South America behind the dictatorship and that revolutionary scene. And what about you, besides obviously the honor to meet a chat with Gilberto?
That was pretty inspiring. I mean, I bumped into a lot of people that I've respected over the years. That was just something that occurred that I was just like, wow, he's a teacher, Yeah. I was sitting in the room listening to him and just kind of going, oh yeah. I mean, it helped me understand the Brazilian music a lot better, and just hearing him speak was inspiring.
Going back to the musical timeline, disculpen, tengo que estamos there is so information to discuss. Hablan de la importancia de conocer a Gilberto Gil. Nosotros en los 15 años de Sonar hemos tenido la chance de interactuar con muchos de nuestros ídolos, músicos que admiramos como Peter, como Barrett, y ellos coincidían en la experiencia de trabajar en un proyecto y hablar y hacer una entrevista de perfil con Gilberto Gil y conocer también el porqué esa jovialidad, ese modo festivo de la fanaticada en Brasil, de cantar los himnos, las canciones, de cantar los acordes, que es muy parecido también a ese modo pasional de los argentinos. Es parte también de una cultura que valora el disfrutar de la música y en tener un circuito, incluso en situaciones que ocurrieron en Chile como la dictadura y el apagón cultural. I was wondering what was the last, in your opinion, this is subjective of course, as music critics and whatever, and part of the industry, in your opinion, what was the last relevant rock band in terms, in message, in legacy, not numbers, not metrics.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
I don't know.
As R.E.M was in the...
You know, when I saw Sleater-Kinney for the first time, that whole movement, the Riot Girl movement, was really inspiring to me. Because, you know, you just come through the whole Seattle thing where everyone's, like, dying and heroin addicts, and everyone had made the mistakes, you know. Some people didn't. But then to see this really young, female-fronted kind of movement, it was really inspiring to me. So that was kind of the last time I really felt like a complete fan, you know, sitting in the audience going, okay, this is great, it's changing the world.
What about you, Garth? Sleater-Kinney.
Well, it's interesting because I'm from Olympia, which is where the Riot
Olympia,
Girl,
Washington.
that's where it started. And so I didn't move to Seattle till 87, but there was like this kind of cool punk rock thing going on in Olympia that was different from Seattle. And it wasn't grungy, it was just kind of this cool punk rock stuff. So I'm kind of the same way. I thought the Sleater-Kinney and Bikini Kill, that was another. I mean, really, Hannah from Bikini Kill
Kathleen
is kind
Hanna.
of, she's sort of the matriarch of the Riot Girl thing. And I just thought, man, this is badass. These girls are just rocking out. It didn't sound like what was happening in Seattle either. It's just a different thing. And then it all kind of merged together as part of the greater Northwest grunge movement. But to be honest about it, grunge is just one musical aspect that was going on at that time. If you really look at the history of Northwest music, there was super cool avant-garde jazz by, like, Skerrick, who is a guy that Skerrick was the sax player that played with Mad Season, but he also played in an instrumental group that Peter and I had called Tuatara. And so Skerrick led this whole avant-garde jazz thing. There was also the hip-hop thing, like Sir Mix-a-Lot, and you know who that is. So there were all these hip-hop artists, and then there were the rock artists and the punk artists. So I know that's not exactly answering your question, but I was inspired by all of that.
And was grunge the last relevant movement in terms of content, message?
I think here's the thing. There are great musicians all over the world, and every city has a cool band doing something. But I do think it's an interesting historical point that after the internet, there hasn't been a super condensed music scene like there was in the Northwest. I mean, just historically, it hasn't happened. Whether that's because the internet diffused everything, maybe. I don't know.
And in your thoughts, what was the last rock movement or rock circuit?
Well, you know, like I said, the Riot Girl thing was really moving. And then, you know, things crop up, and I like bands, but I'm also older, and bands aren't going to change my life in the same way that they did when I was young.
And any modern band that you caught your attention?
You know, there's all these bands.
Not rock.
No, you know what? If I'm listening to stuff right now, I'm listening to African music or Brazilian music.
World music.
Yeah, just generally stuff that I know less about. You know, I kind of know a lot about rock and roll.
In the last decade, we lost several talents, several icons, several heroes, several colleagues of you guys. What was the last loss of as a musician that affected you the most? As a fan, as a colleague, as a friend, a very close friend, as you did with Mark, obviously, and then.
I mean, Mark's death and also Van Conner, the bass player.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, I went around the world a few times with both those guys, and they died within a year of each other.
Yeah.
That was very difficult. And prior to that, the death of Chris Cornell, just a few years before that, because I don't think any of us saw that one coming. That was just an unexpected,
Very shocking.
horrible. Yeah. And I got to play one show with Chris doing the Mad Season reunion
At the Moore Theater.
at the at
sorry.
Benaroya
The
Hall.
reunion.
Yeah. Duff McKagan played bass. I actually invited Peter to do that show, but I think you were on tour. Maybe
You are
or
busy.
couldn't. Yeah,
I'm working. Yeah.
And welcome.
yeah. That's
usual.
back when he was working.
What about you, Peter?
You know, every day you turn around and someone else is gone. I mean, that's the nature of life. Either you know you die young, or and your friends see you die, or you see your friends die. So yeah, but I got to say the Chris Cornell thing was shocking because I didn't really know him, but I knew everyone around him, and it was just just made no sense. It still doesn't really make sense.
Peter, Barrett, thanks for your time. Thanks for doing this. Peter Buck y Barrett Martin, ya bueno, una de las buenas entrevistas que hemos tenido en los últimos años. We definitely see you at Alain Johannes, and we got attention about this Drink the Sea release.
Yep.
Para confirmar, September and the first take,
first single is scheduled for
June 5th.
Oh, really?
5th, first Friday of June. Then there's the second single. This is all the Sony schedule they gave me. June 5th is the first single. July 4th, American Independence Day, is the
Great timing.
Yeah, that's the second single, and then I think it's the first Friday of August is the third single, and then the album is September 19th.
Incredible. Bueno, ya estamos. Peter Buck, Barrett Martin, Drink the Sea y tons of project behind these two amazing guys. Gracias a otra entrevista a Sonar. Espero lo hayan disfrutado tanto como nosotros, y vamos a estar obviamente atentos a Drink the Sea y todos los proyectos que sigan haciendo estos genios, estos two workaholic friends. Nos vemos. Thank you.